Most Christians picture the rapture as something direct and instant. A trumpet blast, Jesus appears, and in the blink of an eye, we're taken home. Simple, right? But what if I told you there's more to it? What I'm about to share with you is not just a vision, but a revelation that changed everything I thought I knew about the return of Christ. Because I saw, with my very own spiritual eyes, Jesus asking us to wait. My name is Daniel. I'm not a pastor, not a theologian, not anyone famous. I'm just an ordinary man living in Austin, Texas, trying to provide for my family and walk in faith in the middle of everyday life. That Wednesday night, I was exhausted. I had just come home from work, my youngest son had a fever, and all I wanted was a few minutes of rest. But instead, I had an encounter that marked my life forever. While my wife was putting the kids to bed, I sat out on the back porch, trying to pray in silence. Nothing deep, just a simple conversation with God. Lord, give me strength to get through tomorrow. But suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The wind, calm until that moment, began to blow with a strange intensity. I felt a presence so strong I couldn't stay seated. My whole body trembled, and before I could understand what was happening, my spiritual eyes were opened. In an instant, I was no longer on my porch. I stood before what looked like a vast heavenly assembly. Rows upon rows of warrior angels stood lined up before the earth. Each one looked like a soldier ready for battle, their armor shining as though it reflected the very light of God. At the center was an angel holding a golden trumpet. I had no doubt it was Gabriel. He lifted the trumpet to his lips. The metallic sound echoed through the silence of heaven. But before the blast came, something interrupted the scene. A different sound began to spread. The sound of horse hooves, firm and powerful, echoing through the heavens. And then I saw him, Jesus, riding on a white horse, surrounded by a glory no human words could ever describe. His face shone like the sun, but what struck me most was not the light. It was the pain I saw in his eyes. As I looked closer, I noticed something strange. Behind the ranks of angels was a dense darkness, like a sea of shadows pushing forward, yet held back by the glory flowing from the throne. And within that darkness, I saw something moving. Distant figures, shapeless, like multitudes, thousands, maybe millions of faces, staring intently towards the light. Some stretched out their hands as if begging to be rescued. In that moment, I understood. They were the souls who hadn't yet decided. People caught between light and darkness, on the edge of the time of grace. That's when the Holy Spirit spoke to me again. Every face you see represents someone who still has a chance, but only for a little while. My heart pounded. I didn't recognize those faces, yet I felt each one was real. Someone alive somewhere in the world, standing at the edge of eternity. And the greatest mystery was that for a moment, I had the impression that one of those faces looked directly at me, as if asking, "Will you reach me before it's too late?" Then Jesus raised his hand and with a voice that shook all of creation declared, "Wait, there may still be one more." In that instant, all of heaven froze. Gabriel held the trumpet to his lips, ready to obey, but attentive to the king's command. And Jesus continued, "Perhaps there's still one lost soul who will turn to me today. Maybe a daughter, a son, a father, someone who can still say yes before it's too late." In that moment, I felt the heart of Christ in a way I had never experienced before. It wasn't just authority, it was broken love, the cry of a father who cannot bear the thought of leaving even one behind. And then the Holy Spirit whispered to my heart, "What would you do if you knew there were only 6 months left?" 6 months? The question pierced me like a sword. I began to think of my children, my neighbors, my co-workers who had never truly heard about Jesus. I realized I had been living as though there was plenty of time. But what if there isn't? God wasn't giving me a date. It wasn't about chronology. It was about urgency, about living each day as if it were the last call before the trumpet sounds. And then I saw something extraordinary. Rays of light began to flow from the presence of Jesus across the whole earth, like bridges connecting cities, nations, places of influence. And across those bridges, I saw ordinary people walking, parents, students, workers, retirees. They weren't famous preachers. They were everyday Christians, full of the Spirit, being led to strategic places. Suddenly, doors that had always been closed were opening. People once unreachable were being touched. It was as if heaven itself was declaring, "This is the final great movement. This is the last harvest." When I came back to myself, I was no longer in the vision. I was back on my porch, but my heart was never the same. Since that night, every conversation with a non-believer feels like it carries eternal weight. Every prayer has an urgency I had never known before. I believe we're living in this prophetic pause, the silence before the trumpet sounds. And the question is, what will you do with the time that's left? If this message touched your heart, I want to ask you something. Leave a comment if you've ever had dreams, visions, or a strong sense about the return of Jesus. Your testimony could be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if you haven't yet given your life to Jesus, don't wait any longer. The trumpet is already at Gabriel's lips, but Jesus is still saying, "Wait, there may be one more." Let that one more be you. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because in the next video, I'll share an incredible story, how God moved the heart of a widow to rescue a child on the edge of despair. You won't want to miss it. Until then, remember, the trumpet is already at Gabriel's lips, but Jesus is still saying, "Wait, there may be one more." Thank you for listening. God bless you.